This is Advisor 3.0, a show designed to help you as a financial advisor elevate your professional practice, transform your clients' lives, and take your business to the next level. I am Abraham Okusanya. Welcome to the show. Welcome to the show, ladies and gentlemen. My guest today is Dominic Thomas, who is the founder and principal at Solomon's IFA. Dominic, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Abraham. Good to be here.
So many people, many of our listeners would know you. I believe we have known you for over a decade in this business.
It probably is something like that. Yeah, I think it was the IFP that we first came across each other.
The IFP, that's a blast from the past.
It is.
Yes. Okay. Right. So let's take our audience back through the journey that brought you into this mighty giant profession of ours, and how Solomon's evolved as a business.
Okay, well, I graduated in 1991 with a business studies degree, which I utterly hated. It was extremely boring. I found two of the seminars interesting when those were on design, and I was quite keen to do marketing and advertising, really. That's what I wanted to do. It was a sandwich course. I did 2 placements within the 4-year course. And I just didn't like it. I graduated in 91. There was a recession going on. Put my CV out there for lots of jobs, didn't get very far. Ended up going to an interview for a guy over in near Earl's Court, who was recruiting for people to work for a tied agent. So I started doing that in 1991, and it was basically high pressure stuff. We were all self-employed. The turnover of staff was extremely high. We had people, we phone up most of the day to arrange appointments with leads that we were being given. You had to hit a target within 2 weeks. If you didn't hit it, you were out. And it was pretty tough.
Brutal.
Yeah. I then had a friend who worked as an IFA and had his own firm, which was a sort of a regional firm, and he specialized in advising doctors. I joined him. He wanted me, I'd originally spoken to him about it anyway, but he wanted me to sort of cut my teeth on hard sales. And then it took me under his wing, again, self-employed, worked a lot with doctors in particular at that time. And after a while, they wanted to go a particular route that I didn't think my clients or the people I looked after at the time were ready for. They were trying to charge a 1% fee.
Interesting.
And this was in 1998. And they were looking at using Russell index funds as a solution to their investment proposition. I genuinely didn't think my clients could do that because most of them were doctors. And so they were, basically they had a decent income, but most of it was going out the door on mortgages, school fees and all that sort of thing. So I just didn't think they had the ability to afford that sort of thing. So I left with their blessing and approval and good nature. They let me take clients that I wanted to take for the simple reason that it was easier to do it that way because they would have to look after them, and that was more problematic than fitting their new model. So I set up. I went on we'd already had discussions about fees and commissions, and so I set up the business without commission. So we set up on to be accurate, it's a 1% AUM. In fact, it was 0.5% AUM fee at the time across everything, and everything was single premium costed. So that was where we started on as a fee-based financial planning firm at that point. In truth, it was me doing a job as an IFA, hoping to hit the right goals for people by selling them better products at a cheaper value. But it was still hit and miss in terms of where we really scratching where people itched. So it was challenging, very difficult. I was finding it very difficult to get people to go into a concept of proper fees, but did. Hard to believe, but our original fees, we had 3, gold, silver, bronze service, 100 quid a year, 250 quid a year, or 500 quid a year. That was it. And we survived. Lots of changes, lots of challenges. First off being when I set up was in, my license came through in August 99, just at the time the dot-com bubble kind of was bubbling up and bursting. So that was a baptism of fire. And it was a struggle. I had people join me on a sort of self-employed sort of basis, and eventually got to the point where let's try and grow this as a proper business, and that's where the direction that we are still taking.
This is fascinating that you were fee-based a decade or so before RDR. RDR
came in 2012, and it all actually took hold on January the 1st, 2013.
2013, so like over a decade before RDR became a thing.
Yeah, which for me was partly about being able to sleep, because I don't know how familiar you are with it, but it used to be that you could sell a pension for a couple of £100 a month, get $2,500 of commission. Yeah, somebody stops it, you've got to pay it all back.
Right. The clawbacks. Yeah.
That's not a good way to rest and enjoy your work, and it's stressful. And I just didn't want to do that. I want to be able to sleep.
So, but you figure. I imagine you figured this out. On your own, and you had the boldness and the courage to actually follow through with it when it wasn't really an industry thing.
No,
where did that come from?
Well. It was partly from the company that I had worked for. So they were moving into a fee direction. As I say, it was that they were looking at a 1% model, which I thought at the time was going to be not achievable for them. It turned out it was. I was wrong. In part, I was wrong, actually. The business changed substantially. But that was the direction of travel. I think we could see it coming in from 1995. We had commission disclosure. That was a big deal at the time, with people having to say and justify how on earth they earned this money on a commission basis. And I genuinely wanted to take stress out of my life and thought, how can I do that? Well, let's remove the anxiety of having clawbacks. Of course, nobody sells you a product at the time thinking that that's going to happen, but we all knew it did. And that was a big deal in regulatory terms of persistency rates at the time. It's not even something that comes up these days.
Nah, anymore. Yeah. So you started business in 1999, as call it traditional IFA business, but with fee based.
Yes, that's right.
And then something must have changed for you to become the financial planning, now 1% or whatever it is fee model. What was that? When did it become?
Well, I was aware of the IFP at the time because they were going, but I think they were quite embryonic, and so they were kind of on my radar. I was into investment in I wouldn't say a big way, but I enjoyed the idea of it and thought, like everybody else at the time, I could beat the market and pick the right funds and all that sort of thing. And so that was the sort of time that co-funds launched and Scandia multi-funds and Fidelity multi-funds.
Those are the names.
Those are all yesteryear, right? And that was picking all that sort of stuff. And I was going to all these events about fund picking and listening to all sorts of stuff about controlled risk and this, that, and the other, and thought the proof of the pudding was rarely in the eating with that whole approach. And it reminded me of a couple of companies. One was Professional Life, who were a Scandia offshoot of some description, who just did trackers. And a client of mine way back at the beginning, who worked for one of the big banks in London, he wanted me to set up a Gartmore UK index tracker fund for him. And I think it was called the FTSE fund at the time, actually, or something like that. And that was back in 95. So it was familiar vocabulary, but it wasn't something that, and I obviously got into some of the Russell stuff as well. So it was there. But the truth was, there's a combination of factors, meeting different people, coming across the IFP. I then went to an event with Paul Armson and his team, and went up to see 007 up in the Midlands. And had a day with Truth, which was basically it was kind of an epiphany in the sense of this is what we'd been looking for. Most of the time I'd been drawing a cash flow model, literally drawing it, trying to sometimes put it into a bit of an Excel spreadsheet. But all of a sudden you got something that made sense, and a lot of the dots joined up in that sort of way. And yeah, so he was significant in that respect for me in terms of getting me on the right path.
Incredible stuff. So tell us a little bit about Solomon's today, the firm, the team. Tell us about, what kind of client you serve, and give me some metrics. I love metrics.
Okay, well, we are a really, really tiny firm. So to give you a sense of that, I am the principal. I am currently the main advisor. I have another qualified advisor who's been with me now for 6 years. He is my son-in-law. That wasn't ever the intention. I then have another trainee advisor who's my other daughter's partner. And so he's part way through his ROs. And then I've got my daughter's working in the firm doing her marketing. And then I've got an office manager, Debbie, and in fact, her son, Sam, is training to be a paraplanner. So he's doing all of that stuff there as well. So we're very focused on training them well and doing that over a reasonable period of time. So I give them realistically, we give them 3 years to do all their ROs, which is partly because I want them to do it without pressure, to understand the jobs that everybody in the firm does so that they have to step up and step in occasionally to do that, and to give them a sense of direction and where they're going as a career. So without the pressures that I had and many other advisors had of, basically here's a list of people, you've done a quick course in finance, or at the time back in the early 90s, there you go, get out and sell. Pressure, which I didn't want for them.
So do you think of it as a family firm?
I do now. It happened. It didn't happen by design that way. It happened partly because during the pandemic, Dan was doing a different job, which had a very evident glass ceiling, and I thought he would make a good advisor because he's a good listener and he's a good man. So
you trained him to be an advisor, and then he married your daughter in the process.
Yeah, he was already dating her at the time, which is how I got to know him.
Right.
But yeah, so my daughters do my recruiting.
When you put it that way, cool stuff. So tell me about the clients. Is there a
I'd love to tell you that there was an obvious client. I think there is today. But we've got a legacy of different people. And it's partly because I think, like a lot of advisors, I like to help people.
Yeah.
It's very difficult, I think, for a lot of us to say no. And certainly a lot of the advisors I know, they're lovely people. And so we will take on people that possibly we shouldn't have done in the past, and we're still looking after them. And that I'm okay with. We might give them a gentler service, a slightly lighter touch service, but we do look after them. These days, we're looking after people that basically want the relationship. That's the first thing. So it's people that I make a big play or point of, we need to click. You're going to see me regularly, once or twice a year, or sometimes more than that, depending on circumstances, but on the whole, once a year. So we need to get on. It's going to be a reasonable amount of time we're spending together. You need to trust me. I need to trust you that you're going to do the right things when I tell you to do them, and all that sort of thing. So the relationship is first and foremost of it. Assets under management and the problems and the complexity they've got is secondary. But like a lot of advisors, I still advise a lot of consultant doctors. I advise business owners, and I advise pre and post retirees. And I like the mix. It's not quite a cookie cutter thing. I take on board what consultants and people tell me, but the truth is I quite like the variety a bit, and I'm quite happy to meet different people from all walks of life with different skill sets and offer different things for me to do.
And how does the client relationship with your associate advisor work? Are you the lead advisor and his associate?
No.
Or does he lead his own clients?
I'm gradually handing over clients, and that's the intention. So that I'm gradually working.
Is that hard?
Actually, it initially it was, but it's not really now. I mean, I've been with a lot of them have been with me for at least 2 decades, right? So it's not straightforward, but I know it's best for the client because I don't know how long I'm going to be in the game, because I don't know how long with anything like that. But I know that the future is very much about younger people taking over and providing a as good, if not better, service going forward. So it's right and appropriate that I gradually hand them on. And my role is changing in terms of helping train them up, oversight, obviously, and then just trying to find new clients to basically keep the fires burning. So that's really the thing that I'm focused on these days, is finding new clients that do fit our model.
Give me some metric. What's the AUM of the firm today?
So we've got about 75 million, give or take at the moment with things going on. But it's that sort of level. And we also charge retainers. So all of our clients pay a retainer financial planning fee, which is kind of a service-based a way of doing it, but part of it is a standing order. Yeah. So I can't cancel it. Yeah. I can't change it. Yeah. They're the ones that are in control of it, which for me was important. And that's really, for most people, to be really candid with you, it's a bit of skin in the game, because often they don't see fees. Yes. Yeah. And having it also, certainly back in when I started the standing orders, that was around about sort of 2000, 2001. And so that, after 12 months, that gave me a bit of certainty of cash flow every month that was coming in, although it was peanuts at the time by comparison. So so we have that sort of model, but otherwise it's a relatively straightforward, typical IFA planning fee now. And I've made loads of mistakes with my pricing that I, hands up, never got that right, and still probably would say it's still not right and still needs to work on.
Tell me more.
Well, literally, I was charging 12 quid a month on a standing order way back in, 2001? It was either 12 or 20 or 75 based on your service level and whether you were single or a couple. So, that was harsh. And the part of that is about the ability to cope with a no, right? Somebody saying no. So it's all about rejection, which is stuff that most of us work on over time. Because we have to. And so I priced everything too low. And part of that was the sense that because I didn't really want to turn people away and I wanted to help, I was trying to be everything to everybody. And that is one of the many mistakes that I have made, because it's just not feasible. You can't do that. As you well know, when you talk about a number of subjects, you've got to define your market and know what you're after and focus on that as best you can, as closely to your models that you want.
But you disagree with me on which is why we get on on some of these things, such as parting ways with a number of clients that you can't is the wrong word.
I think it's quite easy to say you need to get shot of the smaller clients. But when there's somebody that's a widow in her early or late 80s that hasn't been financially savvy, her late husband, and this is a generalism that's generally true in my experience, used to deal with all the finance. You are that person in that part of the relationship now. So to turn around to that person and say, I'm sorry, but my fees have gone up and we're really specialists in this particular area, it's just not who I am. So I will keep looking after her as long as I am able and she's willing. And there are a number of people like that. And to be honest, it's partly, we get on, we like each other, it's straightforward, it's not complex stuff. I don't see, there are plenty of hours in the day for me to look after people like that.
What proportion of those?
Relatively small. I would say something around about somewhere between 5 to 10-ish%, I should think.
Yeah.
But they are there, and I'm quite happy with that. That's okay.
Mm. So let's talk about let's talk about more things we disagree on.
All right, go on.
You have a love relationship with index investing. In the sense that I know you're an index investor, but you have some hang-ups about capital concentration and capitalism, that sort of thing. Let's talk about that.
Well, let me. Of course, mine are just opinions. You're the one with the academic expertise and all this stuff, and I agree with your principles in terms of what you're trying to achieve. The thing that I don't agree with is a phrase like, which is, I think, is, I don't want to blame Nick Murray, but it's a Nick Murray word, right? Or great companies of the world. I just don't like that. They aren't great companies. Some of them are awful, horrible companies. And we can all have our pet peeves about who that is. And it might be what they make or what they do. It might be who's behind them and the reasons why they exist. And I'm sorry, but I find that quite challenging. I don't really want my money going, or clients' money, going to things I fundamentally disapprove of. And I get it. You buy the haystack, not look for the needles. I understand that totally. But at the same time, when I look at your big charts of capital market growth since 1926 or whenever it is now updated to, there's another story beside that, isn't there? Beside the market capital movement and increase in value, there is all the disasters that you helpfully put on to scare the crap out of everybody. But there's also the human stories behind it, and the exploitation and the damage to the environment, to the polluters, all of that. And that's a price that hasn't been built into that yet. And that's a price that is very much coming down the road front and center for all of us. That's what net zero is all about, whether we agree with it or not. That's part of the pricing. And that isn't built into people's portfolios in the way that we just kind of accept that we just own everything and kind of just accept that reality. I get that they are often a very small part of the portfolio, but I'd be not giving a fair impression of my views if I were to say, oh, that's fine. I don't think it is, and I wish we could do something different. Obviously, you've got the ESG type approach, which is helpful, and that's just where I come from. So I find it a challenge. It's a real challenge, and I don't have answers. I've got a lot of problems with it, a lot of criticisms with it, but I fundamentally agree with your principles about this is how things work. Sadly, because the other thing you and I have talked about, we've had a lot of conversations about, is this thing about concentration. America, for instance, in the global equity portfolio, and you approach it more from the political view, maybe as well as the capital view, that I'm going to misrepresent you and then you can explain it, which is like, we should punish corporate America or reduce our allocation to corporate America because the political America is a bully. That's actually quite accurate. That's on a bad day, okay? So that's when I feel particularly vexed by the orange fool. And I don't think I'm alone in that respect. There are plenty. The power of the consumer is alive and well. The power of autocrats and authoritarians is very much front and center of the discussion at the moment. And I haven't yet come across a client that I'm looking after that thinks what happens over there is a good thing. Everybody has concerns, particularly obviously in the middle of the disaster in the Middle East again. because he's a man without a rudder, without a clue. He's a petulant individual that seems to have a following that just say yes. And what has been particularly depressing is the way that companies have folded to his bullying tactics. So particularly media companies, but also all the tech companies he's got far too close a relationship with, and they wield far too much power.
So what's the alternative?
To be truthful, I don't know, Abraham. If I knew, I'd probably be doing it. The alternative, I guess, would be a custom index where you remove particular stock. So moving people like Palantir and people like that. That would be a preference. There are so many great Americans, so many wonderful, brilliant Americans, and of course I'm generalizing massively when I want to say I punish America. It's because the expectation of so much more from them that it feels particularly painful. I've benefited massively from a lot of American things in my life, be it the arts and investing wisdom and all that sort of stuff. So it's not about actually individuals. It's about a handful of people that I think are running amok.
It's fascinating stuff. One of the other things that we've talked about is, this wealth and accumulation in society generally. Yeah. How do you personally think about that?
I struggle with it. I had a church Christian upbringing, and there was very much the idea of riches were some things that were negative. I think you've had this discussion on your podcast before, of types. And so there were hang-ups with it. I actually I was very privileged. I had a very privileged background, and was very lucky. And a lot of people don't have that sort of good fortune, a good start in life. And I guess the thing that comes across in the last 4 decades, I think, is the emphasis on individualism, as though we can completely all do whatever we want, whenever we want, however we want, without a sense of consequence or impact on other people, I think is concerning, to put it mildly. And I think a financial planner's role is to help people think about what do they actually want from life, and to help them achieve that. And there are always numbers involved in that because we've all got different values. We've all got different lifestyle requirements. Some people want very big lifestyles. Some people are much more modest. A lot of my clients struggle to spend. And I don't think that's that unusual. And of course, the things that we don't know are the things we don't know, but we can kind of say, well, things like care fees are going to be expensive if that happens for you. We don't know what's going to happen to your health, and where private medical insurance is going, and those sorts of things. So there are big uncertainties, and we don't honestly know what's going to happen to a lot of people's jobs over the next 10 years with technology evolving the way it is. But to give a sense of the discussion, it's probably more to do with how much are you really choosing these things in your life that you say you want, the cars, the whatever's it is, and how much is it just marketing? And these are the things that we're meant to feel that we want. Most people that I speak to, which admittedly is a bubble that I live in, don't want lots and lots and lots. They're not unbridled in their limit, what they want for themselves. Most of them are pretty generous. They like to share. Do we all really need a lawnmower? Could we share them a bit more? It's not very capitalist of me. It's quite left wing, I suppose. But the idea of sharing resources seems to me to be a better approach than simply accumulating them and using them a few times a year.
Is this an or thing? In other words, I mean, is it capitalism and something else, or is it and?
I think personally, as I'm sure we would agree, capitalism is currently the best system that we have of those that have been looked at, right?
Yeah.
The truth is, though, that we haven't really looked at that many systems, and capitalism isn't really that old. And at the moment, we seem to have unbridled capitalism. We have extreme wealth, where people are more wealthy than countries. Now, that cannot be right, and it cannot be right that you can be an exile from South Africa and influence elections around the world for whatever political agenda you might have. That can't be right because of the amount of wealth you have.
Sorry, carry on.
So that's my thought.
But is it not also true that generally, when you look at the wealthiest individuals that you're talking about, their wealth has been created by making positive contribution to our general lives? So I'll give you an example.
I don't think that's true.
So to the gentleman you're referring to, you're talking about Elon Musk.
Yeah.
The wealth is tied up in the companies that he's created, one of which is Tesla, which has done more for two things, more for carbon reduction, i.e. Tesla, electric cars, not just Tesla's electric cars, but now competition all over the all the competitions now, investing in this. That's where the wealth's come from, no?
Well, it's partly come from that. It's also partly come from him borrowing against stock to do other things, and there's a degree of he's using the financial system in order to advantage things. Buying basically a media company like Twitter and ruining it, I don't think is about wealth creation.
I mean, if you think of if you apply the amount of wealth that's been created, say in the case of Elon, for instance, from Tesla, SpaceX, which is about literally putting man on, colonizing another planet,
but that's not going to happen,
the sort of thing we're talking about that, SpaceX talking about today is not only about rockets, but building, in space, but building data centers in space, research and science, all of this about, literally curing diseases. These are net positive for
let's see
mankind.
If they happen. I would think that there are other things you could do with that amount of wealth to cure illnesses whilst not actually leaving the surface of the planet. It's all on the promise and the premise of tomorrow and about the things that they can do. But it seems to me like a very, very expensive way of burning an awful lot of money and not yet any results.
Is Microsoft a net positive to the world?
I don't know. That's a value judgment. Most of us use Microsoft at some level, right? But you would probably be aware of a book by Cory Doctorow called Enshittification, and how technology has just generally got worse and worse and worse, despite initially being really good and exciting and vibrant and a very useful tool. But we do find these things. They're not, it just becomes about money.
Would you say life of the common person, even the worst people, the worst off in society, is their life, how they live, is better off now than it was, let's say, 20 years ago?
I don't know the answer to that question. When you look at things like Gapminder or Factful.
Yeah, Factfulness. I know.
Then the charts sort of all kind of recently have stopped being updated. I don't really know the reason for that, but obviously that tells a story of various aspects of infant mortality reduction rates, family sizes reducing, life expectancy increasing, literacy rates increasing, although I think they must be going backwards now, judging by the level of way people behave. There are lots of positive signs when you're looking over the course of history, of course. And, who wouldn't welcome that? But that doesn't mean that just because it happens, therefore it's not appropriate to ask questions about are we on the right path? Are we doing things fairly? Because the expansion of wealth inequality is vast. And I don't think that that's right. I don't see why anybody needs $1 billion. Just doesn't seem necessary.
But it's not. So this is the thing I keep going back to. It's $1 billion or however much the money is. It's not cash sitting in the bank account.
And now you tell that to his banker when he borrows.
Yeah, well, I mean that's that you can borrow against
so it's
it as an asset.
All of a sudden, it's an asset when he wants more, right? But as soon as somebody wants something from it, it's not an asset. It's a liquid thing.
No,
that's called having your cake and eating it, I think, and also setting the agenda.
I mean, it's really fascinating, this conversation, because I see wealth generally. Yep. I see wealth generally being created by making positive contribution to the world, and so some of the examples that we cited, these companies, they make goods and services that broadly speaking, improve our lives.
Okay, does Coca-Cola improve your life?
I try to avoid.
Does fast food improve your life?
It's a very good question. I like this.
Does a 4x4 that drinks fuel, or used to?
I drive a Tesla.
Okay, they don't necessarily improve life. They improve balance sheets for businesses, and yes, there's stuff that people buy, but do we need a lot of it? Are we more happy as a result? Or content would be a better way of looking at it. Are people pretty angry generally and have short tempers and unable to get on? Are we quite divided? Are we living in a world of the haves and the have-nots, where anyone from as soon as they're able to get in front of a screen can see what others have and feel envious about it? Is that a good way to be? I'm not saying that these things haven't always been there, but they're there in a way that is unprecedented on a global scale now. And the challenges, to my mind, are the best way to make your society secure is to ensure that your neighbours prosper. Because if they're prospering, then there is a very, very good chance that they won't be after what you have, which is what most of the fear about it all seems to be. So build higher walls, bigger gates to protect everything that we have. That doesn't seem to be a good human condition.
How do we make our neighbors prosper? How do we employ all these young people that we are created out of
that's $1 million question. If I had those sort of answers, I'd probably be in politics, except I'm not somebody that's terribly good at compromising, so I would be hopeless in politics. So I think allowing people to do what they're good at, and countries to thrive in a way that is fair and reflects what their culture and society bring. So the fact that you've got companies patenting seeds, that's not right. You can only be a farmer and use these seeds if you want us to buy your cocoa. I mean, this is immoral. And it's ruining countries around the world who becomes reliant on a few single production lines. Britain doesn't really make any, doesn't really have a manufacturing base anymore. We barely have a tech sector, which is a problem, isn't it? If the great orange one decides to turn off a relationship, we are stuck, which was, I think, one of the points you made after Mark Carney's speech recently. And so the sense of making sure that we have our own independence, offering good things that we do well to other countries as an exchange. Trade is a really good way to foster relationships of goodness towards one another.
So you just said capitalism is a potential solution to extreme political power that you alluded to. So in other words, the way I think about this is the UK and indeed largely Europe we've outsourced our manufacturing elsewhere for the most part. We've outsourced our technology elsewhere. We've overregulated everything. So therefore, the US has gotten more and more prosperous. And with that prosperity comes significant political and military power. And the really only way for us to counteract that isn't to become less commercial, less capitalist. It is to be more capitalist, to allow for more creativity, more productivity, make things, build more technology so that we can be wealthier and counterbalance some of this concentration that you see in our...
I don't know if we need to play the same game. What am I trying to say? I think the thing that I would wonder about is your idea that all wealth creation is good. I'm not sure that's true, and I'm not sure that just because it can be done, it should be done. So just catching up with the US, well, war is a good way of making money, right? Sex and drugs is a good way of making money. That if you were a particularly ruthless individual, that's where you'd probably put most of your wealth. That's not the result that I think most of us would want.
Many of these things that you also said are not particularly, they are crimes. So in other words, there is the law that guides this wealth creation,
But is there? When you're talking about regulation, for a lot of people, that is a negative thing. And I get it. I get there's red tape and problems and all the rest of it. And our sector has ample. But at the same time, when you look at places like the States who are free to exploit the earth and do whatever they like, it would seem under the current president, I don't find that in any way satisfying or appealing.
Oh, this has been fascinating conversation. How much of this do you talk to clients about in terms of how they're thinking about their wealth, allocation of their own resources?
I would say that it's something that I talk to them in my communications with them generally. So they have a sense of what my values and beliefs are to some extent. It's not something that you're going to really condense down into a 60 to 90 minute client meeting, is it really? I mean, but it's something that you have the opportunity to talk about over years of working with people. And a lot of people, when asked, as I believe we should ask, is, do you have any criteria that you want applied to your portfolio? Do you have strong views about how your money's managed and all those sort of things? Those are appropriate and right and required questions to be asked of clients. So I think that it is a conversation that happens, and it's in the public domain for, people in terms of consumer power. Ethics is front and center right at the moment in a lot of things. And we see the nefarious things going on around the world and in governments and politicians.
How do you talk to clients and help them to define enough?
Well, I think it always starts with what's their lifestyle today, and when would they like to finish working if that's something that they haven't yet done, and look at what things really cost. So in the old financial world of final salary schemes, 2/3 was regarded as about enough, right? I don't know if that's a fair metric, but it's a starting metric to say, well, because you haven't got a mortgage at this point, because your income is lower and paying less taxes, because your children have hopefully left home, which is not currently currently a thing for a lot of people experiencing, but as a principle, then 2/3 is possibly enough. But of course, the challenge is to say, but life is short. We know this, and we all are aware of the preciousness of life and how quickly it can be snuffed out. So there's a degree to which, you want to start living today, not just deferring it into your retirement. This is what all good financial planners are talking about. It's not certainly something specific or unique to me. And so we're trying to help people think about, how can I do that now? And how do I want to keep doing it whilst I have the health and the vitality to do so into my retirement? Probably, and it's a generalism, but probably by 85, most people are fed up of getting on airplanes and traveling to places that they haven't yet visited. Not all the time, but it's probably true. And their lifestyle changes around about that sort of point, if not a little before. And so it's helping them figure out and helping them verbalize what it is that's important to them. And most people, when you ask the sort of questions that we've all been sort of trained and suggested to ask, invariably come back down to relationships, and they want to feel and be seen and valued for who they are as a person. And that has invariably got very little to do with money.
So with all this talk about AI and how that's going to impact, financial advice, what's your take on that?
Number of things. I'm not really sure what AI is. It seems like a marketing term. And certainly from some of the books I've been reading, that it is a marketing term. It's code. It's a form of code. It's a form of software. And therefore, what's the big deal? You then have this polarization between, is it going to kill us all, or whether it's going to solve the world's problems? Probably neither of those things is true. I think one of the things that may well do in terms of the data cooling centers is destroy the planet for that reason, because we're going to run out of water unless they come up with another way of cooling servers. And I think that is a problem. Is it overhyped and overblown? Yes and no. Yes, in the sense of I don't think it does solve all the problems. You still need proper artisan skills that are very human to do a lot of the things. But it can also do a lot of the heavy lifting and things that we wish we could do quicker and suddenly find that we can do quicker. Is it a challenge to a lot of people's roles in life? Yes, I think definitely. And I don't know how that will end, because when I think back to things like the miners' strikes in the 80s, when effectively that was all about closing the coal mines because of the agenda of trying to decarbonize things and less reliant on fossil fuels. The main problem really was that the people that were doing the mining weren't ever given any new sets of skills. They were ignored and just said, well, we're doing this, so move on. And if that sort of approach happens again, we're going to have some problems, I think, of a much bigger scale.
Do you see that problem applying specifically to the role of a financial advisor?
I can see that it's happening. There are, there's already on my social media feed, as I'm sure on yours, you can see it's software for AI financial planners already. I am hoping that my future is some way assured in that I hope that people still want real human connection and explanation and putting things in a language that they can't form, because it's all very well, isn't it? An AI prompt, you've got to know what to ask and how to ask it. And then you're still not sure whether the answer is right, because really at the moment, most of them are just pattern recognition systems. So that, and there's an awful lot of theft in AI. I don't think there's another way of putting it. They're stealing other people's work.
So let's look out in 5 years' time.
I'm sure you will be right and I will be wrong. I'll be okay with that, because it's more important than asking the questions.
No, it's fascinating. It's been really good having this conversation and for other people to listen. Tell me what's next for Solomon's. You got the son-in-law and your daughter in the business.
Yep.
If I come to Wimbledon in
Cobham, we moved to Cobham.
You moved to Cobham. Cobham. Of course you did.
We need more space, and we've now moved to a lovely estate, which happens to be an old mill, which is an old doesn't work, but when it rains, because all the water goes under the building. And we are literally the other side of the river from the Chelsea football training ground. So you can hear them shouting occasionally at one another, particularly after a bad week. And so we're there. The intention is to keep developing that local business area there, networking, which I'm enjoying and finding that as a good challenge. I would like to get the firm to have 5 advisors.
Okay.
I would like each of those advisors to look after about 100 client families, and each of those with, looking after around about £650,000 of revenue plus. But that sort of thing. I think when you're looking at the FCA's data about the industry, it seems that the sweet spot is in that small business model of somewhere between, I think it's 5 to 11, isn't it? That sort of level of a number of advisors. There's enough flexibility in the company to be adaptable. It's big enough for everybody to feel like there's a culture there rather than just a little organization. And it's got enough punch to say, well, we are making a difference to quite a large number of people's lives in a positive way. So that's the aim. Whether we get there, I couldn't tell you. It's been a long journey so far, and hopefully got a long way to go.
I love it. So, in a couple of years' time, Solomon's 5 advisors, presumably not all of them son-in-laws.
No, we've run out.
We need a different recruitment strategy.
So far we're taking on graduates, paying them all properly whilst they train.
That's good.
And having a proper career structure in place, the sort of things I'd never had myself. So I want them to feel that it's a good career. I'm pretty sure all the people you speak to in this game love doing what we do because there are so many really genuinely lovely people in financial services, all with good ideas. We might disagree about lots of things, but so what? But the intention is always to do good and make people's lives a lot better than they are, and to give them a sense of liberation and control of their destiny in a very uncertain world with lots of problems that we can all argue about. But at the end of the day, it's making a difference.
It has been, an interesting, introspective, dare I say, uplifting conversation. This is where we've ended, isn't it?
That's good. It's always good to speak to Abraham.
Dom, thank you really very much for your time. Thank you for your wisdom. Thanks for the work that you do.
Thank you. And for yours and your wonderful, brilliant company at Timeline.
Thank you. That's a wrap on today's show. Massive thanks to my production crew, especially Jake Osha, Melissa Canham, and the entire team. And of course, to our sponsor, Timeline, the market-leading provider of integrated planning technology and model portfolio service to advisors. I do hope you've enjoyed today's show. Head over to Apple Podcast and give us your review there. Until next time, goodbye.